Okay, guys, we're going to try this a second time. This is Wurm Generator, or WGenerator 2.9.0 for Wurm Unlimited. If you're trying to make a map for your own private server or your own dedicated server, this is probably the best tool I've found so far to be able to generate your own maps for it. So like I said, this is version 2.9.0. If you're not using 2.9.0, research it, find it. Use this version of it. Don't use the previous versions. I don't know if issues got fixed with them or not, but I have not had any kind of luck with the older versions. 2.9.0 seems fairly stable. It is definitely out of date. It hasn't been worked on in a while, but it still works. So, load it up. We're not going to go through all the stuff with that, but basically you're going to want to download it, get it into a writable folder, and then open up your command prompt and open it through Java. If you need further instructions, I will link the entire forum thread in the description below. You can read through that and get any help that you need from that. But we're just going to basically go through uh, the basics of getting this set up for generating your maps. And my current map for my server is this one right here. This is a 4K map. And as you can see, there's quite a few people that are playing on there right now. But this is what a 4K map looks like. If you there are several options for map sizes. If you're looking for something a bit bigger, you can go with 8K. I don't recommend the 16K unless you have a super powerful system and you're the only one playing on it, as it will definitely cause lag. The larger the map size, the more lag it'll cause. Most servers run a 2K map that I've personally visited. 4K is rather large. It takes me roughly an hour to run on foot, unencumbered, 100% run ratio. Basically, no gear, no inventory, running from one corner to the other. And that was shortcutting through here because I didn't see a purpose in going all the way around this when the goal was to try to run as close to straight north and south as I could without having to go over the mountains. So this is the flattest areas right by the ocean's edge. So I was taking that route. It took me almost an hour. 2K map's going to take you about probably half an hour. A 1K map is going to take you about 15 minutes. An 8K map is going to take you about 2 hours. And this is just running non-stop, straight through, north to south, east to west, whatever. That's not time going diagonal. That's obviously going to take a little longer. For the math whizzes out there, you can figure out if it takes an hour to go north to south here, and it's exactly 4,000 tiles by 4,000 tiles. This is actually 4096 by 4096, but you can figure out what the distance would be if it was completely flat. Obviously, this map is not completely flat. There's mountains and whatnot in the way, so that would take considerably longer. I manually carved these rivers because I couldn't get the generator to do it, but I found out that I was actually doing it wrong, and I will show you how to do that in this video. But you can carve rivers with GM commands and whatnot. There are mods out there for that. But anyway, this is a 4K. A 2K map is going to be literally a quarter of this. Okay, so you have 2,000 roughly by 2,000. A 1K is going to be 1,000 by 1,000 roughly. It is actually 1024 in each direction. The 2K is 2048. The 4K is 4096. The 8K is 8192. And that's the number of tiles you're working with. 16K, for those that want to know, is 16,384. It's standard computer math. So let's get into the map generation. We'll switch back over here. Okay, your blank canvas. First and foremost, figure out what map size you want. We're gonna use the 2K because it's a little bit faster than the 4K generation, but the same principles apply for every size map. It just takes longer for all of the different functions the higher up you go. A 1K is going to be super small. Not super small. It's good for one person, but it doesn't give you a whole lot to work with. So I would recommend either 2K or 4K. But set the map size of what you want. Don't worry about the rest of this at the moment. Go ahead and generate your height map. Yes, you can import height maps, but I would strongly encourage you to look through the forum and get some more information on doing that before you do. There are some specifics about importing. You can import one that you've exported from here without any hitches, but creating one and then trying to import it when it wasn't generated in this program gets a little more complicated. If you know what you're doing, then fine, go ahead and do it. So this is going to be the basic height map. I am not going to be using this map. This is just for design purposes to show you guys exactly what's going on here. The white areas are the height areas. The black areas are your low areas. So we go to drop dirt, and you drop the dirt to get the standard map look. You'll get an overview of what it's going to actually look like. And that's what this particular map is going to look like. I'm not hiding the biome seeds at all. You guys can see everything that's out here. Everything is in the open, so you can see exactly what I'm doing. So that the map that you're wanting is what we end up generating here, then you have just follow the video. You'll see the exact numbers. So let's say that this is actually what we want, and this isn't a bad one. I don't like the flat tops on the mountains. So we're going to go back to height map. We're going to take off the random seed because we want to stick with this seed. But we want to change this height. So let's do something closer to 7,000. And we're going to regenerate. And then we're going to drop dirt again. Now you see that the mountains are a bit more peaky. If that's what you're going for, great. If you don't want that, then you go back to the height map and you drop this down to, say, 3,000. And regenerate. And then you can drop dirt again. Now they're a bit lower, but we have max dirt height set at 3,600. That's going to be a problem if you want the mountain tops to be rock. It is not going to be a problem if you want the mountain tops to be snow capped. And I'll show you what I mean here in a little bit. So most of these have tooltips that pop up, um, dirt per tile, how much dirt to drop per tile on the map. Actually, let's go back to height map first. So the map size, obvious. The map seed is a generated seed, and you can put in whatever numbers you want. It doesn't matter. Um, you can go with random seeds. There is a logic to it, um, but I don't know what the actual numbers indicate, and I haven't found anywhere that it actually specifically says. But if you find a seed that you like, stick with that one. Kind of tweak some numbers here and there, but write down the one that you like. Write down the actual numbers so that you can always go back to it if the numbers that you're like, if we wanted to swap that 2 for a 4, for example, write down this number first on a scratch pad or whatever so that you can always come back to this number. Um, it's a good base starting point. The resolution, less equals more equals islands, more equals landmass. So let's show you what this is. So the landmass here set to 256, but if we change this to say 25 and we regenerate, yeah, it's going to look really, really odd, but we're going through this anyway because I want to show you exactly what this is going to do in all aspects. And I fully encourage you to experiment with the numbers and whatnot, but this is what you get. And we can even go back to height map and take out the more land and drop the dirt. And you're still going to get something very similar. So if we go back into this and we say resolution, I don't know, let's say 1,000. Remember, we have the moorland turned off. We drop the dirt. Tell that there's going to be a mountain in the center. There's going to be a little bit of peaking over here and one down here. That's what you get. So if that's what you're looking for, then great. I think this could work for a decent map. It's got plenty of flat area. It's got a few mountains. It's even got a little peak over here on this guy. A couple of little islands. This might be a good map. So the rest of them, iterations is how many times it goes through. If you have a weaker system like I do, keep your iterations low. If you have a more powerful system, then you can go through it multiple times, and it's just going to do minor alterations each time. Minimum edge is how far the water is from, excuse me, size of water border around map. So this is at 64. This is going to put it a little ways away on all edges. So it's not going to get any closer to the edge of the map. That means that if you add another map for a neighboring server, this edge is where your barrier is going to be for this server. And the other map on the side or this side or up top or whatever its edge is going to match that. So you might have this distance, if you make both maps at 64, for example, you would have this distance twice. So the next landmass would be over here, or it could be down here, or whatever. The border width, how spread out mountains are, less equals more centralized mountains. So if we drop this number, they're going to be centralized to the center. If we increase it, they're going to be spread more. I'm waving my hands. You guys can't even see that. They're going to be spread more toward the edges of the map and less towards the center. And then the maximum height is how high the map is. Normalized ratio. Now, that's something that I've played around with a lot. Um, the lower the number, this one doesn't have a tooltip, so I'm trying to explain it. The lower the number, um, the less it gets to be. So we're going to stick with this map because I want to show you exactly what's going on here. So if we change this from 33 to say 3 and we regenerate, you're going to see a big difference in this map. See how dark everything is? This is all that's going to be exposed above water. Now if we go to say 73 and we generate, all of that is now exposed. So I'll show you the difference here. And we'll do the 3 as well, just so you can see. It's going to be a slightly longer video, but I really want to go through all of the different aspects of this. So you're going to get weird lines that go diagonal through here. You're going to have to do erosions to get rid of that. You've got flat top mountains. It's trying to normalize everything. It basically normalizes the height map to a specific color. So play around with that a little bit and get what you want. Let's go back to just the 3. And this will be fairly quick. And then we'll move on. We're going to go back to 33 to do our map. Because the rest of it's pretty straightforward. It's just getting the height map and the seed setup that you like. See, that's all you get with 3. Remember, we used to have an island down here. We used to have an island up here. Well, now it's just a little spot. So think of it as a contrast control with your height maps. The lower the number, the darker it's going to be. The higher the number, the brighter it's going to be for the normalized ratio. So we'll go back to 33. It typically works pretty good for just about every map. So that's going to be kind of where most people are going to want their numbers, is right around that 30, 35 mark. It gives a good setup. See, there's a very different map right there. We go back to drop dirt, and we don't want the water height to be 500. I typically set mine to 200. Which gives me a little bit more land. 200 is perfectly adequate for most of your sailing vessels. Now you'll notice there's a bit of a mass that goes through here, so you might have to do a bit of dredging or whatnot. No, that's above water. But if we go to topography, 200 is right at the edge. So all of this drops off. There's nothing there beyond that 200. So that's all open water. So if we go, say, to 300, and we update the water, that's going to bring the water in. Now you see all these little spots. Those are going to be high spots that you may end up having to dredge out if it's too close to your land. It looks like all of these are pretty good. I mean, there's a pretty narrow channel through here, so if somebody was to sail through here, they wouldn't be able to sail straight across. They might have issues. Then again, that might be low enough that that's not an issue. But let's go back to 200. Nope, that seems to be okay. So what if we change it to 4? Is that going to cause problems? Maybe it was just a glitch with that particular one, because I'm not seeing anything on 200. I'm not seeing anything on 400. And honestly, if you don't see it with 200, um, then you shouldn't see it with 300 because the water's deeper. It's when you start dropping further down, like see through here, that might cause a problem. But that also takes away our lake that was here when we had 200. Okay, we had a couple of lakes here. And some people prefer that there's more lakes. Some people prefer that there's less. They like the open water or what have you. But that's the basic gist of getting this set up. So we're pretty much done with this. And like I said, your more land is going to give you more land. Your less land is going to give, or unchecking that is going to give you less. It's going to give you more water. Um, I found it's easier to um, work with both of them. Find a seed that looks pretty decent, and play around with checking and unchecking that box to see how the height map and the drop dirt looks on that particular map to decide whether or not you like it. So if we go, let's go back into the dirt since we've been working with that one. Dirt per tile is how much dirt gets dropped per tile across the map. Pretty straightforward. Dirt maximum slope is 40. That means that anything above 40, you'll see these rock outcroppings. If we increase that, it's going to increase what the slope variance is for being able to have exposed rock versus not having exposed rock. If you're having, or if you're allowing for people to join you, or you're wanting to do an Ironman type setup, you're going to want exposed rock to begin with because you need crude tools. And it actually adds a little bit of realism to the map if you have some. But you can easily go like max dirt slope 20, and then you redrop, and then anything that is over a slope of 20 should be exposed rock. See, now there's more. So that tells me that a lot of this is pretty much super flat. Okay, and you can do more dirt per tile. You can do less. It's up to you. Max diagonal slope 56, which is basically the same thing. It's just on a diagonal basis. So instead of straight up and down this way or across this way, it's going diagonal. So it's that if this tile was 15 high and this tile was 40 high, you'd have that diagonal slope going between the two. Whereas this one might be 30 and you've only got a 10 slope between these two. You have to imagine that there's blocks there. um, so max dirt height, 3,600. If we drop this to say 2,000, going on the premise that our height map was set to 3,000. Okay, so if we set it to 2,000 and we drop dirt, anything above 2,000 is just going to be exposed rock. Just like that. So any peaks above 2,000 is just going to be um, exposed rock. Now, if you want snow, you need to make sure that this number is higher than the max height that we set here on the height map. So what I tend to do is I'll go with whatever the height map says, which is 3,000, and I'll add 500 feet. So we go 3,500, we drop the dirt. That way I can put the snow in for the tops of my mountains. Otherwise, the snow will not drop on the tops there. It needs the dirt to be able to be snow. Why that is, I don't know. That's just how it was set up. And then we already covered the water height. That changes how far in. If you drop this even further, the whole thing could be one complete landmass, no water. And that's going to be very difficult to sail on. Landslides, you can also push dirt down that's above the maximum slope. That's not a bad idea. It makes for deeper dirt down here if you want more digging or what have you. What I've discovered on my own map is without having the landslide, um, terraforming gets a little more difficult because you have to pull dirt from another area to build up where you're trying to flatten because that rock is right there. You only get down a few dirts and then all of a sudden you're at rock and um, it gets a bit more difficult. Either that or you have to surface mine that rock down so that you can get the dirt flat there, uh, especially if you're trying to build. But if you landslide it, there's a potential that that dirt might even be deeper and make for a bit more of a easier terraforming. So if we drop dirt here, it'll add to that landslide. And you won't necessarily see a whole lot, but there was a little bit of shifting through here. You can pause the video, rewind, and watch it yourself. I may end up watching it a few more times just to see it happen. But changing the max diagonal slope, you can also drop that down to say 36 and redrop. Now we still have the landslide on. So anything above that is going to slide down. Now there's even more exposed rock. If you don't like that, that's fine. Bring the number back up, whatever. We're going to leave it like this and move on. Rivers, since that's in here, we're going to cover that right now. Let's say right through here, I wanted a river, maybe down through here. this is a better one. Generate rivers isn't going to do anything until you paint the river. So you paint the river. You can leave um, auto dirt drop on, but then with your mouse in the generator, you just draw wherever you want the rivers to be. River depth 40, river width 2, river slope 4. So we want to change this to being maybe 4 wide as well. And we'll change the slope to 5. Depth is fine. Let's go ahead and generate the rivers. And that's going to drop new dirt. This is something I just recently figured out how to do, and I wish I knew it when I generated my last map. Now the rivers are carved through there. And the best thing to do, you can see that's kind of a cliff through there. We don't really want that. But see, that opens that entire area up now for sailing. So let's go back down here. We're going to go to erosion. We'll just leave it at this minimum slope. We want 10. And you can set these to whatever numbers you want. And we're going to erode the height map, and then we need to drop dirt again. But you can see that kind of smoothed that out a little bit. So this won't be as bad coming through there. People will be able to actually build settlements on the edge. And you can run through the erosion a few times if you want. So that makes it a little more smooth. Let's do one more time, and then we'll drop dirt again. And that's going to be more of a smooth area. That's also going to be rock. Just like that, because we have the landslide turned on. If we turn that off, oops, let me go back. So we turn off the landslide and we drop dirt. This should fill in. Let's put that back to 56. See if that helps. There we go. See, this one filled in a lot. This one filled in a bit. So there is some rock right there, but that's okay. That opens up that entire channel. Take a look at our map. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Let's say you wanted another river over here. You can zoom in and you paint rivers here. Maybe this one we only want width of 2. That means that only small vessels can go through. We'll drop the slope to 3. We still want it 40 deep. That's not going to change. Then we go through here, and I'm doing a continuous just to make sure that the little spots in there get cut away as well. We generate. There we go. Now we've got a river that cuts through here. We've got a little lake over here, so if somebody wants to cut a channel in there, they can. You don't want to do too much because people are going to want to terraform their own areas. And as far as I've been able to tell, you're not able to make your own lakes, but if we experiment a little bit, we're going to use this little plot right here. And see if we can make a little lake. I don't know how well this is going to work, but we're going to test it. We'll see how this turns out. It may not turn out, just so you guys know. I hold no expectations right now, but I'm hoping it does. Yeah, now we've got a little lake right there. So you can even make your own little lakes. It takes a little bit of patience and effort, but now that's a freshwater lake for somebody to have a spot over there. Okay, on to the next thing. You're going to want to save your height map right there. Nope, that's import. So we're going to call this test 4. Why not? Just a random name, doesn't matter. Update the map name. And you're going to want to save your map files. Now you can import the height map because anytime you deal with the rivers, from what I was reading, and again, I'll leave the link in the description for the forums, or for the particular forum for this one. And it does talk about you need to save the height map and then re-import it after the rivers because it doesn't save it in the actions here. So you have to save your maps. But you can go back to height map, import height map. There's test 4 right there. And it didn't save that height map. Biomes. Oh, maybe it's save images. Let's try that. Height map, import. There it is. So save images, and you get your height map right there. We're going to load this one. And now we've got our rivers just as we put them. We've got our lake. It's ready to go. Now, if you want to go back to view, just to make sure, you can actually see the river channel going through there, going through there. There's the river channel right there. So it's actually in the height map. Okay, so we've got our map the way we want it. Rivers in, lake in. Let's move on to the biomes. First and foremost, I like to make sure that the snow goes in. Actually, yeah, let's do the snow. Max height is going to be 3,500. Minimum height, that's important. We want the minimum height at 3,250, just so that it's only the tops. Biome size is going to be the size of how big the biome should grow. Density is how sparse it is or how broad. Max slope, pretty self-explanatory. Water level, we don't want it around water, so we want turn that off. Randomize is fine. The growth is fine. It's just snow. We don't care. So now we're going to add the biome. It's going to update the map as well. And sometimes it does take a second. You can also adjust the seed count. So let's put in 100. See if that helps. Okay, let's start at 3,000 then. Because it might be trying to put it way above. But these should have snow coming on them. And you can switch to the biome view and take a look. So we can go 20. Let's do 2,800. You might have to play with the numbers a little bit. There we go. Now we're starting to get snow in there. Let's do 3,100. And we want to make these a little bit bigger. So let's do 45. And drop this down to 27. There we go. Now we're starting to get them over here. And you can go back and forth between the views to see what you think. You're going to need snow for the larders. Larders are used to preserve cooked food. But you can easily change these numbers. Let's do 250. We're going to drop this to 26. And it's just randomly putting them in at any spot that meets those requirements. So now we've got 2 snow-covered peaks. And if you want, you can even go 2,500, drop this back down to say 20, just for smaller patches. You can turn off the randomize if you choose. That's growth percentages, or turns on the growth percentages from north to south and east to west. So 70% north, 70% east, so forth. You can leave the randomized and say minimum growth. Since we have our biome size set to 20, you can do like 15 and 30, for example. And that's not bringing us further down. So let's do 2,300. See if we can get some on the slightly lower peaks as well. Oh, there we go. So we're starting to get a few smaller spots. And you can up this to say 450. And that puts in a few more. You can drop the max height if you want to say 2,700 and bring the minimum height to 2,200. And you get some smaller spots through here. We'll add a couple more of those. There we go. Now it actually is starting to look like mountains. All right. Now, next thing is the grass. Do you want flowers? Do you not want flowers? If you want flowers, you put in the flower percentage, minimum and max, and so forth, and then you seed the entire thing. I move this up usually, but for this the video's purposes, we're going to keep this at say 100. And normally I do like a 5 to 700 because it covers the entire map. But we're just gonna leave it at 100. Max slope, minimum height is going to be 200 because that's where our water's at. We're going to take that off. This is a very important box to keep an eye on. Around water off means it'll go specifically on these numbers. Around water on means that it's going to go from water level plus or minus those numbers. So it could go all the way, since water level's at 200, if I leave this at 200 and I have this checked on, it can put grass all the way down to 0. If I set it to, say, 10 and have that on, it'll put at -10 and above. Max height, same thing. It'll go water level plus that amount. So it could be anywhere in those locations. I want water level off, or around water off, because I want it specifically above the water. I don't want grass in the water. So 200 to, and we probably should have done this before we did the snow, but it's okay. We're going to say 2,000 just to keep the snow where it's at, because otherwise it'll cover over the snow. And this one, if you've got the biome size set super large, it does take a while. I've spent, on my 4K map, I've spent upwards of a half an hour waiting for this one to finish. Again, I have a slower, older computer, so it's a little laggy at times when it comes to doing all this, but there's your biome to be able to see it. So anywhere that these are, there could be flowers. And you can see the entire thing. It doesn't matter. It's basically just grass, but there's a 30% flower chance within those regions. So, for instance, this spot here, that entire area is grass. So is this. But this grass has a 30% chance of any one of these squares having flowers in them. This grass has a 0% chance. That's your biggest difference between the two. And then you go into each thing. So clay, you don't necessarily need dirt unless you want dirt. I don't put it in mine. I don't do packed dirt. That's up to the players. We already did the grass. I don't do gravel because, again, that's up to the players. That's more for making roads and stuff. So I'm not sure why that is an option or the packed dirt, but that's okay. We just skip them. What I tend to do first is the kelp. That is around water. I do smaller biomes. Minimum height, remember I said it's a water height plus or minus. So we want kelp to be no more than about 15-ish and maximum height to be 0. You don't want it growing above water. So you want minimum height to be negative 15 up to the edge. And we can leave the minimum and maximum growth. You can change those if you want, doesn't matter. This map is not going to be saved. Feel free to use it if you want with these exact settings. But that's going to add, see these little spots here that popped up? Those are kelp. And you can add a few of them, doesn't matter. You can watch the map as we add them. You'll see other little spots pop up here and there. And we can even, I mean, if you really wanted them up on land, you can do a 15 here for example, to keep it right around the water level. Add them again. And it's going to put some up here, but because it's the same color, you're not going to be able to see if they're up here or not. And then I also do the reeds the same way. Keep it around the water. We do minimum height 10, maximum height 0. Add a few of those in. And yes, the map does glitch out every once in a while. And then we'll do 10 above just in case. If you're clicking too fast is usually when it pops in. Now, if you want to see what happened and that view wasn't working for you, you can also come in here to the regular view and take a look. Sometimes you'll see extra browning, like here. That's probably reeds. It could also be dirt, but it kind of gives you an idea. So you see a couple of different colors of brown. It's really difficult to tell sometimes, but that's where the reeds are going to be. It's like around here, this. Remember, we carved a river through here, so that's probably kelp right there. All of this is the same height, so if you see anything in there, that would be either kelp or reeds, but that's basically what that does. And then in game, you'll have those, what is that? It's kind of an anomaly. That might be land that's just barely below the water level. Okay. Then you go through and you do your clay and your peat and all that stuff. You take off this, you make sure that this minimum height is no lower than your water height. Okay. So 200 is the minimum. Maximum, we're going to say 300. So all of my clay on this particular map is going to be between 200 and 300 in height. So it's going to be from water level to about 100 above water level. We'll do 500 at biome size 5. There you go. That's a lot of clay. A lot of clay. But since they're all biome size 5, with the growth 30 to 70, they could be any random size within that range, with the minimum, absolute minimum, being 5. But that's all the clay in there. And if you don't want that much, you can undo last. And it's not 100% perfect, but you can see it knocked out a bunch of them. You can reset all, which is going to reset your snow and everything as well. So my advice, set the seed counts low and just do multiple adds until you're happy with it. We don't need grass. This map, we don't necessarily need lava or mycelium. But if you're planning on having, um, what are they called? Priests in your game, then the priests for um, the Dark Lighters uses mycelium to heal, so you're going to want some of that. They can also alter the terrain on their own once they get enough strength or enough faith to do that. So that's up to you. Lava is hit or miss. I don't necessarily like it much, but you can put it in yours if you want. So we've covered all of this down to here. We do want some marshland. That's going to be a low area. And you can do like slope 30, for example, minimum height 200. Again, take off the around water, maximum height. Actually, no, marshland we want around water. Sorry. So you're going to want like 2 below to say 20 above. I think that brought in some over here. Maybe. Let's go back to biomes. I can't tell. That might be some. Let's go ahead and add again. Oh, here we go. There's some right there. So we'll zoom in here so you can see a little bit. See the different color green? For those that are colorblind, I apologize, but there is a different color green. It's almost like a tealish color. That's marshland. Map generation is not something that's super quick. It takes a while to get the maps the way that you want them. There's another one right there. So we clearly want a little bit more. So we're going to add a couple more of those. See what we come up with. Yeah, there's some marshland over here. Marshland right here. but you want it right, basically right around your water's edge to make sense. Okay, on to the next. Moss, we want moss. Normally I put that at about 1,000, or we'll say 1,100 to about 2,000 maybe. But I usually put that a little higher. Biome size 3. We're going to knock this down to 10 and 20. We don't want that around water. Moss is another one that's green. So add a few of those. And that should be up a little more. Yep, see there's the brighter green. That's moss. You'll even see it up here next to the grass. Our peat tiles, I usually put peat closer towards the water's edge, but not at the water's edge. Biome size 5, density 1. Slope of 20 is fine. Minimum height, we don't want it around water, so we want, like, say 250 to, let's say 450. And again, we're going to change this. We're going to add the biomes. This should come in as more of a black color. There's a couple of spots right down here. That's more brown. So that might be more reeds, honestly. That is peat. We'll add a couple more, because we want peat to be accessible. It's a good fuel source. There we go. We've got a few popping in here and there. And again, the numbers are completely up to you. This is just what I'm doing, and I'm not going to be using this map anyway. This is just for video purposes. Okay, so we need sand, and I just kind of go through the list. We don't want biome size 100. That's pretty large. Let's do 20. Sand is useful for a few things. So we're going to go take that off. We're going to go 220 to, say, 425. 30 to 50 maybe. There's no exact science with this. And there's our sand that just popped in. Show you. So those sand patches might be too big. So we can undo last. And they're not going to wipe out. There are still some hiccups with this generator. You have to be patient with it. But like I said, worst case scenario, you can reset all and start over if you want. Again, map generation is not a fast thing. Sometimes it takes multiple attempts just to get the map that you're looking for. But if that biome size is too big, you can drop this down and make smaller ones. We're going to leave it. Step. Biome size 50 is good. We only want a few of them, so the count is fine. Minimum height, we're going to do 450 to say 1,000. We're going to take that off. We're going to leave these as they are because our biome size is kind of right in the middle of them. And there's our step. Those are large areas that animals tend to congregate. And there's a few. That's probably good. We don't necessarily need them all over the place. Our tar, we definitely want tar. But I'm going to put that at 1,000 to say 1,500. So it's going to be further away from the water. Tar burns longer than peat, and peat burns longer than standard birch wood. There's different burn rates for different things. Tar has an 8 times burn ratio with in comparison to birch. So it's more of a prized material, but you also need it to build a few things. So like your boats and stuff. But it's one of those resources that I tend to pull away a little bit, so I don't want to give new players everything right off the bat. Again, these numbers are completely up to you as to where you put them. Biome size 1 is where I'm going to leave that. So we're going to put this at 1. We're going to put this at 5 for the growth. So we're going to add that, and that's going to put in even more little black spots. A lot of times you're not going to see them because they're so small. That's all peat. They should be right around, yep, there's some right there, because that's right in the same neighborhood as the moss. So that's going to be tar right there. And I don't personally think that's enough, so I'm going to add another one. And that's going to make sure that there's right around 400. Like I said, a lot of times you're not going to see it because the biome size is set to 1. If you increase the biome size, you'll see them better, but it's also going to make for bigger spots of it. You want the certain aspects of the game to feel rewarding when a player does locate something. Tundra is up to you. Again, it's like steppe. It's a little different. We'll put a few of those in just to have a few. We want those up higher, so 2,000 to say 2,500. Biome size of 50 is good. Again, that's right in between these two, so we're going to add that. And that's what tundra looks like. It's that greenish gray color. It looks like it only added one of them. So let's drop this down to say 1,500. See if we can get a couple more. There we go. So now it's in this mountain range. Fine by me. And then you move into your apple trees, your birch trees, all that stuff. That tends to take a while. If you want specifics, you can also just do standard tree tile, which will add a variety of different trees. My recommendation is to go in and manually add in each type. Same way we've been doing. Make sure your around water's turned off. Set your heights. Set your biome sizes. Your seed counts. All that stuff. Your minimum and maximum growth rates. Um, we're going to just do regular tree tiles, and that's going to add in a variety of different trees. But for the video purposes, so biome size 20 is fine. Minimum height we want to say 210, so that they're not right at the water's edge. And we're going to go to 3000. Turn that off. We're going to set this to 10 and this to say 50. Add those in. See, there's not very many there. That's those patches like that right there. Like this one. Like these little guys here. So we're going to add a few more. Make it a little more dense. Trees definitely need to be abundant. And you can go like say 100 at 50. If you want some larger patches, you can do my apologies, the dogs started going off. Okay, so back to this. You can go like say 500 at 5. And you're going to want to make sure that these are within range as well. And that'll add in some more. You can do say 10. Biome size 100. We'll do 50 there and 110 there just because we can. And see, that plasters the whole area. Just so you can get an idea, we're going to undo that one. Because that was very large. So let's do let's go back to 50. We'll do 25 to 50. I want a few more of those. And maybe we'll do one more. There we go. Now, clearly, this is not going to work for a player map because if somebody's down here, look, they barely have any trees. So, what you can do is click on paint mode for any of these biomes. You can paint anywhere you want. Click there. Click there. You can Click there, click there. Anywhere that doesn't look like it's got enough, you can add some. If you need to adjust, oh, see, that just exploded there. I mean, that looks okay. Um, not not what I would particularly want on my server, because that's I do everything individually, but it's a way to get through it. Do the same thing with bushes. What? For the most part, biome size 1, take the seed count off. I do, roughly 500 minimum, 225, so you don't want them super close to water. Turn that off. Maximum height can be whatever, doesn't matter. You can even have them growing in the snow. So I'm going to do growth 1 to 10. Add that. I'm going to add them a couple of times. Okay. So we've got all that in. Now we get to the ores. This is the default setting. There's no adamantine, there's no glimmer. This is not a percentage setup, although it can be treated as such. This is a by weight setup. So the weight of the map, the number of tiles in the map, technically you can see it as being a percentage of whatever, but it's the entire map is basically 100% rock, the whole thing. So looking at these, it's kind of difficult to explain. The easiest way to explain it is think of it like a percentage, even though it's actually not. Um, and you want your ores and your stone and whatnot to come out to decent numbers. So to if we go to view cave, there's no cave map because it hasn't been generated. Once we get all these done and we hit generate, then it'll generate it. If you want to stick with default, purely vanilla, purely, just like Wurm online servers or what have you, that's pretty much what you're going to find here, except for the adamantine and glimmer. What I tend to do is I'll bring this up to about 4. Gold I set to 1.5 or 0.15. Silver gets set to 0.35. Zinc goes to 4.5. No, not 40. Sorry, I just saw that. Okay. Um, so I had these were at 0.05 so that there's a chance for them. Rock salt 1.2, sandstone 1.0, slate 0.8, marble 0.6, tin, copper, lead, zinc. Yeah, these were, no, zinc was higher than that. I'm sorry. Zinc was 1.1. Copper was 1.3. I think lead was 1.45. Oops, 0.45, and tin was 1.7. I think is how I have it set up. Something similar to that. That might not be exact for my personal server, but this is something along those lines. Now we generate the ores. Generating ores needs to be the last thing. Has to be last. If you don't generate last and you deal with the ores first and then you do your biomes, you end up with an issue that I had to deal with, which was the anytime a player went into mine, the only thing they could find was rock salt and sandstone. Couldn't find any other ores. I went in as a GM to do the same thing. I had maximum analyze, maximum prospecting, um, and the only thing showing up on in the list anywhere, didn't matter where I mined, and I tested multiple locations across the map. The only thing I could find was the same thing: sandstone and rock salt. Once I came back in, I rebuilt the map, same exact height map, same everything. I regenerated the ores last, redid the biomes, all that stuff, and then generated the ores. Um, Everything started to work. So do your ores last. Different ores are going to have different colors. But if you can imagine, say this is your mine entrance, and you're coming in this way, now you've got 3 different ores right there. You knock through this one, and you got another one right there. Well, then you've got some rock through here. Maybe you're trying to tunnel through, and you just keep missing it. They're there. And for those of you that didn't quite hear me right, they are there. They're there. Um, so generate your ores last. You get the get everything working right. And the very last thing is you go out, you make sure your map name is correct. You save your images again. You save your map files. You can save your actions in case you want to redo this map later on. It's a good option. Don't worry about loading or clearing. Save your global values. And you can export your biome values. Biome values is going to be here in the config, but you want to put it in your maps folder in test so that you know exactly what the biome values were for that particular map. Uh, it's a personal preference of mine. You can leave them in biome values, but every time you do a new map, it's going to override it. If you put the biome values in with your maps in the same folder, then you're always going to have them for that map. And then you can load them from there. So it's going to say, oh, well, this is where, nope, that's not what I want. I want to go back into WGenerator. I want to go into my maps. I want to go into that particular map. There's the biome values that I want. Okay, now you're all set. You're done. Import your maps to your server. You will be overwriting the maps that are in your main directory. So look for those particular map names in your directory for your Wurm server. Delete those, put these ones in their place. Make sure to go into your settings INI file and change the map name. This one is named test4, so I want to make sure that in my ini file it says map, what the map name is, test 4, not, Okria or, whatever, not the default names, because that's going to load the other map or give you an error. If it can't find that map, sometimes it tries to regenerate it from its default configuration. If you change the map name, the new map will be what you're using. This will not show up in your in-game map. There's more configuration to do with that. But if you're using a server host that has the live map loadouts, I personally use Ping Perfect. I'm not advertising for them, but on there I have the mods set up for these maps, and anytime something gets changed in the game, it's a 15-minute live update. So every 15 minutes the map reloads, and all those changes get shown on the map. Height changes, the whole bit. So you can redirect your players to go to whatever redirect it is to show what the live map is. There are mods out there to do all that. But that's going to be it for the WGenerator video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and it was informative enough for you to be able to generate your own maps. Uh, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks. Hour and a half to generate a map that not even going to use, because I had to explain everything as I'm going through